Ну что ж, коллеги, еще раз доброе утро.
Okay, colleagues, good morning once again. This morning we're going to discuss a very interesting topic, business education and digital technologies. To make a shorter path to our main session. When discussing digital education, people mostly discuss online education, online learning and so forth in its various flavors. When discussing digital technologies and business education, we mean that the spectrum of technologies that we rely upon is much broader, and many of the challenges that are seen in most discussions are still very relevant in the context of business education. Very often we put to question the mere existence of education and business education if it falls out of the topic of digital technologies. We have quite a representative panel of speakers today. Some of them have prepared PowerPoint presentations. Others are going to be engaged in free discussion. Olga Veligurska was expected to be part of this discussion, but for various reasons she failed to come. We also have here Oleg Kurbatov from Paris University, and I suggest that we start from his presentation, because the other speaker who was planned to speak before him is lagging actually. Good morning. I'm glad to take part in this forum for the first part. As a Russian-speaking French, my education was in French, and I've lived in France for several decades, which may cause certain difficulties in my speaking. I'd like to introduce our university as a new concept based on new scenarios suggested by our partners. Our migration path from digital university to urbanized university, which is meant to be, we call it Über-Université. My presentation will be, I'm going to proceed from my understanding of the future of our university and the future model of university education in general. What are our priorities in Europe for a university? They're pretty classical. The university is designed to educate, research, introduce innovations, dissipate knowledge. One of the key missions, which may seem to be pretty standard for Russian universities. Today, French universities facilitate students' employment, which is explained by our current reality, which includes very high unemployment, introduction of new technologies, and so forth. Therefore, we are engaged in professional orientation of students. One of the concepts that we rely upon is alternate education or overlapping education. It means the following. Some of the students in some professions come to a university in order to get training and then get employed immediately. There is an order by the Ministry of Education saying that students in certain professions shall be educated in such an alternative manner. For a certain period of time, student studies while being full-fledged employee of a company. He or she studies for 1 or 2 years, getting professional education, and then goes to work. I'll get back to my own experience. I was in charge of a program related to providing training to low and mid-level managers of French airports. It was kind of vocational training. Well, the training was provided directly on site at airports. When those airports were overloaded, they were getting their training at the university. It all started from online training. After that, they would switch to classroom training and then to on-site training in the university, getting education as interns. This kind of education is supported and sponsored by the government. This approach has existed for quite a few years, and it proves to be pretty beneficial for both the country's economy and the students themselves. It's not just online education. It also includes social education on site, after which students and graduates stay to work for an extended period of time. This stress on leadership criteria in digital education envisages deep professional orientation. It also yields academic freedom to professors. The professors engaged in scientific research can facilitate creation of curriculum, and such professors can choose to teach or not to teach. This is a very creative approach, helping to elaborate training courses, and pretty creative ones, project-based. In the airport of Paris, we were engaged in such creative projects related to airport automation. In the course of that work, we also trained great professionals with both university and business education, capable of immediately engaging in doing their professional work at the airport. We considered various university models working together with OECD. My other mission in France is membership in a UNESCO board of students and professors, where we work on the various scenarios, and now I'd like to share with you some of them, while also offering a new scenario that we have been developing at our R&D center under Paris University, which we call Uber Université. We consider university to be an open international network. An opposite scenario is universities serving the needs of local authorities. We also work on the social responsibility of a university. We can also consider university to be a corporation. I know about a couple of examples of such corporate universities in Russia. A few words about the first one. A lot of details are provided by the OECD. It is university as an open network, offering universal education, both students and professors being part of a free network. And professional orientation is considered to be an additional method to general education. It is a network of partners where all the partners are internationally available and accessible, yielding free access to education programs to students. And it includes digital education, which is designed for mobile students and massive courses. I'm not sure if this terminology is used in Russia. This massive education approach is designed for major industrial groups and enterprises. By the way, in France, this approach to education has failed to become popular. In the 80s and 90s, the French government opted for the development of such major groups rather than small and medium businesses. As a result, major corporations preferred to grant training to their managers abroad rather than France. This approach, designed to train professionals for major enterprises, is pretty weak in France, and currently our government is doing its best to give an additional impetus to this approach. Being high learning institution, each university in France has a business school which is called Enterprise Administration Institute in the French terminology. This development of digital education is actually based on this alternate education approach and exchange between the university and the employer. But this scenario also includes a number of risks, including putting in place hierarchies of the various groups, which groups may not be sustainable and stable enough. Very often they function as volunteers. While a program is over, they fall apart. Therefore, this approach must be based on sustainable business models capable of yielding stable revenues. Another OECD scenario is a scenario based on the notion of a university serving the needs of local businesses and local authorities, which can be done at the level of a city, at the level of a municipality or a province. Why this approach? Firstly, there is aging of population. Moreover, the population is becoming more and more mobile, moving constantly between small towns. And the mobility between such towns is much more intensive compared to the intercity mobility. And such higher learning education, higher learning institutions are expected to provide training to local professionals in order to improve the local community's life standards. Such universities are closely in touch with local authorities, taking orders from mayor's offices and municipal offices. As in addition to the other digital technologies, they help to put in place local social networks such as LinkedIn to help establish links between local students and authorities. They offer interactive courses and provide training to local professionals. I learn in Courbevoie, for example, which is not far from Paris. Once we came to our city's mayor in order to establish a university in our town. Just imagine the mayor of a small town wanting to establish a university. And it was what he suggested, to look at those of 40 to 50 years of age, those requiring retraining, and we developed a business course for real estate sector workers, because our region is very attractive to visitors. Those people working in Paris and living on Paris outskirts In doing so, we wanted to make our town more attractive. The professors make a network with other professors from other localities, and they are engaged in science and research and enrich their activities with the results of work of other researchers. Another approach is new social responsibility and government responsibility of a university. Well, in fact, what we're seeing today is a kind of decline of government-owned universities in Europe, which is explained by the lack of financing. Universities are becoming more and more independent, identifying independently their roles and priorities in education, and doing scientific research on a commercial basis. That is why digital education plays such an important role here in the development of universities' activities, which gives rise to specialized courses enriching general education curricula, which makes universities more elite-like institutions financed by private endowments and foundations. But there are risks too once a program is over. The course is over too. The fourth OECD scenario is about the university being a business, in which case the university doesn't depend upon any municipal authorities. It is free to choose between education or research. Normally, such universities look at MBA courses. Let me remind you, traditionally, the MBA has been an Anglo-Saxon approach looking at improving the education level of professionals. My friend is marketing director with MER. He had completed his MBA in Singapore in order to grow his education level. This approach to higher learning, I'd call it enterprise learning if you don't mind, looks at commercial projects. But it can also serve state-owned businesses. If we look at the Russian market, Gazprom has its university, for instance, with its own R&D centers, acting as limited companies. What they do is providing training to oil and gas industry professionals based on Gubkin Oil and Gas University. For such folks, digital education is a priority. MBA students spend part of their time on their workplaces, while part of the time is spent at universities or passing exams or doing corporate courses like my friend with Singapore education. I consider this model to be really attractive for Russia. The OECD recommends to countries such as Singapore and Russia to focus on this approach in their higher learning in order to be able to export knowledge to other regions of the world. And I see a very bright future for this approach. Last but not least, Uber Université. We are all familiar with Uber Taxi, which is an interactive platform-based cab service. The same model can be applied for universities at the initial development stage. which is actually a university managed by algorithms and electronic platforms. There is no faculty, actually, a fixed faculty. Each and every user can become a professor, and the links between end users, professors, and students are selected on a platform based on query data. We see a trend which is given rise to by social media such as LinkedIn or Facebook or Twitter, which is about establishing links between those capable of providing training on top of a business model which can be offered to students. Such professors can also offer employment based on proper algorithms. This is a description of such Uber Université, the example of Kokorel, which offers business education. This is a kind of post-digital model comprising both digital and human capital. People don't only get training in the digital mode, they can also network in order to exchange knowledge based on such a platform. And now the very last innovation that I read about some time ago. Facebook-based courses. A Paris-based law professor lectures via Facebook, providing training to students, then helping to get employment. I am sure our distinguished panelists are professionals in this area, and they will be in a great position to comment on my presentation and to add something. Thank you very much, Oleg. Your last bullet regarding Facebook is very interesting. For a long time, we have been saying that there might be poor quality courses based on Facebook or other social networks such as Contact. And you in France consider it to be innovation. We've been practicing it for some time. We have colleagues here offering such courses based on Facebook. I'd like to ask a question to Dmitry Voloshin, head of Rostec Corporate University. As I see, you're already familiarizing yourself with French Uber Université. In your opinion, how applicable is this approach to Russia? Thank you very much. Good morning, colleagues. I would like to say thank you to you for coming to attend this session, as well as the organizers of this event. RANEPA. I've been taking part in this event for 3 years in a row, and the level of organization is becoming higher and higher. As far as Uber Université is concerned, it's very difficult for me to judge because our approach to providing training to professionals is very special. We're focused on engineering education, training so-called engineers of the future in order to grow the share of civilian products, which explains our narrower understanding of the set of skills and competencies to be provided to our future employees. We consider things such as creative thinking, emotional intelligence, all those things that you're well familiar with. As applied to engineering professionals, in our opinion, it helps to put in place prerequisites for achieving our utmost ends. I'm only speaking about our university. In this sense, everything that relates to digital education is considered to be pretty risky. More than this, we do not consider this approach efficient. Nothing can substitute the joy of human communication, which is very difficult to achieve via online education. Speaking about université, if my understanding is correct, it is about peer-to-peer education being a semi-professional educational network, which is not really good for corporate education, in my opinion. However, in a more general context of innovative education, it has the right to exist, although for corporate learning, it is unlikely to be viable. Thank you. Another question. How about tutorship? In the tutorial model, speaking about tutorship, a tutor is deemed to be the most important component of an educational system, and the cost of this approach may be much higher. It considers face-to-face, well, it's based on face-to-face education, classroom-based education, and it belongs, in my opinion, it belongs to the premium segment in the context of mass education. Okay, colleagues, I suggest that we continue. As I mentioned before, we are going to discuss a very broad spectrum of questions related to digital education, and we will do our best to consider to discuss the entire value chain. On top of education itself, we should also discuss student acquisition, working with graduates, and so forth. And I'd like Alexander Molchanov to dwell upon the first topic, which is student education. Good morning, colleagues. I'm representing two organizations, financial university under the government of the Russian Federation and a consulting company, which is called Professional Electronic Education, which is engaged in developing educational packages. Some time ago, I worked for another higher learning institution, and I found my previous employer to be pretty inertious in launching educational programs, curricula. Speaking about selecting new students for universities, I'd like first to give yet another definition of digitalization, which is acting as an avalanche already. Moving to the digital is not only about granting more intelligence, data, it is about complete change of the paradigm. And I'm going to refer to one of our colleagues from Alpha Bank, who spoke at one of the forums some time ago. The digitalization of cash control resulted in our bank having to replace 400 employees for just one robot. The same can be said about the future of the university. Uber University based on algorithms was mentioned today. What does it mean? It means that very many people will be put aside, laid aside. Virtual reality it is undervalued, but what I have seen in the Russian universities so far is really impressive. You can create a full-fledged project, for example, your students' future work site. You can create a room. You can, through doing so, you can develop in your students' enterprise culture, explaining where these or those tools should be. You can gather in one and the same room individuals who are actually in different parts of the world to make them collaborate. I've been speaking about virtual reality, which has been significantly undervalued so far. Artificial intelligence and robots, they are exactly the products that are coming to businesses now. And the graduates of business schools will eventually have to manage them, which means that we should pursue different approaches to student acquisition. Now, digitalization of education. We have already mentioned massive online courses such as Coursera, which is more than 15 million people, although the platform has only been in place for just a couple of years. In traditional university, we don't have this alumni. One of the courses would provide training to 120,000 students at a time, which is many more than the entire headcount of the higher economics school. We in Russia also have our national open education platform. Why isn't it interesting to me? I consider it to be one of the tools to acquire students. National open education platform, for example, has time management course, and more than 20,000 people have already graduated for it. People interested in this topic are potential students of business education learning institutions. And I'm really interested in coming to know who of them eventually reached the very end of the course and so forth. Yesterday, Andrei Sharonov said that the average business education student was 20 years, and today it is really so, although the trend is changing. There are a lot of global trends such as personalized education, for example, allowing senior school children to get business education, initial business education, and launch commercial projects, and earn their first money, which means that by the second and third year of university, such students will have quite significant business experience. We don't need to wait for them to become experienced professionals. They already have business projects and businesses, and immediately after their baccalaureate, they can go to work.
And since in Russia there was a change of the cost of the national currency, all of a sudden Russian education became attractive for foreign students. But the infrastructure of Russian colleges and universities is not really tailored to foreigners. In our adoption committees, we don't have people speaking foreign languages, nor do all the instructors speak foreign languages. And here we have one of the biggest challenges, just how fast a university can change their conditions that their students will have to study in. And yesterday, during the discussion, somebody mentioned we have different values in business education. We are providing one set of competences, but in the West, they provide totally different set, which means that the content for foreign students should be different in Russia. Yes, they're all called EMBA or MBA, but the content varies. And business education, like in any education today, the case itself is a black box. And if you're an entrant, you do not know what instructor will be teaching you what. We do not know the full range of disciplines or courses. We do not understand what will be the final competences. It's just like a black box. You come to a school because it has a good brand. You listen to graduates' testimonies. You think about some star instructors, but the star instructors could be 2 out of 20, and we'll react to them. It's an issue of marketing, of how you position, how you sell your educational product. Next is diploma. What diploma means today? Nothing. I'm, as employer, couldn't care less about diploma. I'm much more interested in individual portfolio. How many businesses you've launched, how many businesses you have managed, what are real results that you have received. And for example, I'm the teacher of mathematics and informatics, but I'm working in marketing and launching educational products. My diploma is not relevant to what I'm doing today. Who are we selling it to? Like I said before, let's take a look. Today, we have a new generation. They were born with mobile phones, and they are from 25 plus. Which means that for them, computer is the workhorse in their lives. And we are bringing in a teacher who is speaking live to these people. People have grown up, they're used to doing business and organizing themselves via social media and electronic documents. And we're still imposing on-campus instruction. And of course, leader is a person who is valuing their time. And for them to get distracted from their business for half a year, 1 year, or 2 years, it may result in a crash of a company in the most of cases. So we have to understand that the tools which are provided by the business education have to be changed. I will not be speaking about the promotion tools. You understand that any interactive aspects, any direct sales will be much more profitable. And I would like to encourage you to involve your potential students into direct sales models. And the advertisement is not the best tool here. For example, you can build the model of a demonstration zone, because it's in every university. They have their own IT platforms, their own online courses, and many IT instruments. Let the potential entrants and enrollee to try how he or she is going to study. Let them see how business education is let's say, in the Russian academy is different from that of Sorbonne. Let it be short courses, like a week long, 2 week long, 1 month long. It is not that expensive, but it will enable them to get a motivated entrant to your school. Next is involvement through the massive open online courses. On the slide, you can see some details. Via MOOCs, we can hit our target audience. The main challenge of business schools is that it's difficult for them to find their target audience. These are not school graduates or sitting in public schools. You cannot just come to them and to advertise your university to collect your 5 or 10%. Because those professionals who come to business educations, these are people scattered all over the country. They're at factories, in companies, and they never even go to any business clubs. They're not from the same community, but they're all in social media. They're reading certain business magazines. They have certain interactive component to them. And each of us have our bank cards, and whenever you make a payment, you leave your IDs. So it's a point of communication. We actually spoke with some of the banks. Next is involvement of your potential students through the business games. Each businessman, you have your mobile phone, you have a lot of different applications on your mobile phone, including games. Not so long ago, we've seen Pokemon Go game and how people were crazy about it. Even before that, there was a game about build your farm. And what stops business schools to be customers for companies or building apps which would set a certain goal? For example, I need to bring my target audience for a particular business product. You have to model it in a certain interpretations. It all could be done. And again, we are hitting the right target audience for our school. Next is a program segmentation. Oftentimes, business schools are offering just one program, and they believe, okay, we've packaged our program, we've done it, it's convenient. Now let's try to expand this box into several modules. For example, educational module could be the same for everyone. The modules related to placements, business cases, they could be different. They could be modules of choice. If I have enough money and desire to work in Russia, please give me training in a Russian company. Give me the placement in the Russian company. It costs so much. Or if I want to work in Huawei company, give me for a different money the possibility to do internship in Huawei. If I need to learn the language, please pack also the foreign language lest I be distracted. Let's make this kind of individualized programs. It is not that difficult because you have a lot of IT professionals. Why don't we have kind of MBA Light, IMBA, EMBA, luxury MBA, you name it, where educational track is the same. The baseline track is high quality, it reflects to the level of university, and this will enable you to involve quite a wide target audience by price and by their capabilities. Now, additional models. You can see it on the slides. Colleagues on the sidelines, please come up to me. We can argue, we can discuss, we can debate. My only statement is that one of the latest trends is working with micro diplomas. And today, I believe that in professional education, it's a micro diplomas which will enable us to really assist a graduate to prepare them for the business where they are going to work in. So I think the micro diploma and VR virtual reality is the thing of the future. I'm done. Thank you for your attention. My contacts are on the slide if you would like to contact me. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. Thank you. Alexander, thank you very much for a very interesting presentation. Many interesting ideas. Maxim Girin looks like he has a comment. He's the person who is developing the My University project. Thank you. I wanted to compliment to what Alexander said about working with universities and attracting employees of new companies. I'm involved in e-learning, distant education. I guess we're not going to speak about that today. For 15 years, I've been involved in business education. And for the same period of time, I was doing education as business. So I know what it means to educate an employee of a company because it's an MBA, an executive MBA. And I'm also teaching marketing courses. So let's say the businesses decided that they need some corporate universities. It's the next stage because they don't trust conventional universities. And having worked in corporate universities, they can see that you can very easily buy some good projectors, some equipments, interactive boards, and it's very easy to spend money on the ELMS, several ELMS, and to install it for their employees. But for some reason, it didn't change the situation with education. And then they decided that education is not only that visual part that you can see. It is not only about involving stars. It's also some educational processes which with each iteration have to be more precise, more exact, and to solve the problems of the company. Then they looked and they decided that it's a different business. It's a one thing if you are teaching something haphazardly, but it's a different thing if you really want to get good specialists and professionals for your company. You have to be serious about that. Some biggest corporate universities in Russia asked us, help us to select the best. And two interesting cases. One renowned bank said that they would like to study their employees because we have an adaptive learning system. They have seen that you can open this system for students so that you could do a pre-selection and to choose, handpick those people who are still on the street, they're studying, maybe in a, let's say, in a financial academy, in RANEPA, but they're capable of solving the tasks that company is seeking to do. So we're making an online or offline open course. They're going through the education, but through the analytics, you can see their academic excellency. It is not about giving them grades and marks, F, A, B, or see. What's important is how a person was studying, how often they would do the test. The whole educational process is an indicator, it's a litmus test. And computers are not very good now about doing this educational process. So, on the other hand, the second case is another company, one of the most renowned on the Russian company, and we are still just launching. I guess I will not be giving the name of this company. They've realized that many employees would like to work in the company because it's very well known, but it would be the very big strain on their own HR department. It is not that they want to change their interview on some kind of testing. They would like to replace it with some micro training course so that a person would say, like, okay, you fit us, you don't fit us, let's say 264 points you've scored, you're okay. No, a person goes through the education course. If they've done it well, then okay, this is a capable person that fits our corporate culture. But if the person didn't do very well, it took them a long time and a lot of repeated courses, refreshers, then probably this would not be a dynamic employee. It would not fit our company. So if we're speaking about the marketing and involving entrants and enrollees or the best employers, it's about hunting talents, and decent education could be here an asset. And to solve these issues, Alexander has mentioned that it is not very difficult for universities, but I would argue with him whether it is difficult or not, because when we're speaking about the distant education, it is not just a hard copy translated into electronic format or some video lecture which is taped on the camera. And on the south of Moscow, by the way, there is one university which has built a great TV studio, and we've been there, and my TV guy said it's a super, like Ostankino TV tower. So now it is not needed anymore. You don't have to invest any money in expensive equipment. We have very good projectors in these classrooms. The money have been invested. But I'm curious to know how much money was invested to build adaptive learning programs, because this is the whole point. If we're speaking about the trends, like Alexander mentioned about blended learning, adaptive education, we can see. And by the way, I don't think that the e-learning will completely replace the online or offline instruction on campus. But distant education will decrease the amount of live communication, because everything that has to be automated, it only makes sense to do it. I have a very short 1-minute video. Could you please turn it on, and I'll be commenting on that. And building this kind of course for one of the state-run companies, it took us 2 months to build just one course. But now it's adaptive, and it doesn't matter how many people, be it 10,000, 30,000 people. Each of them will get their own track, and they will see in that course only the things which do not make sense to them. Everybody else will see their own content. It's a clip about the future. As you can see, we'll have the electronic education in schools. You can easily identify iPhone. We can see a standard electronic test. The teacher is asking questions, and a student, we can see the big iPhone in the student hands, 3 buttons, choosing right or wrong as an answer. And basically this is what we have now in our distant education. People have done some tests, and then people pushing buttons. Unfortunately, the effectiveness is not very high. This is why distant learning is having all these blunders and mistakes, and not very high result, as we can see from the distant education. So for a university, it's difficult to move beyond the scope of a standard multiple answer test, and basically come to understanding that now a teacher's role is different. We can see here a teacher is pushing the buttons and sharing the content, but basically a teacher has to understand what each student needs, what should be given to them. And like Alexander said, 1 million people is more than the whole students' cohorts in Harvard School of Economics. We have over 1 million people also in our platform. And we are looking, so I wanted to draw your attention that these very buttons, actually this is our topic, and what is outside of this black scope, this would be the algorithm of adaptive learning depending on people's answers. It provides either different test or next block of knowledge depending on how people respond to this multiple question test. It is very difficult indeed, so I would encourage universities to invest money in this because you have a great sensor screens. As long as I've been teaching here, I see the same screens, and in about 10 years, I've never used once this kind of screen. But should I have adaptive education become way stronger, because with the new iteration we can see the courses. Not even courses, we're speaking about the micro knowledge. This is our term because we're cutting everything by 3 to 5 minute chunks. And it's very easy to adapt it, because to change 3 minutes is much easier than to change the whole big course. And we've seen that the trend at the messenger really coincides with our technology of micro knowledge, because we can quickly connect it to the open the door. The hackathon colleagues didn't really have it very well, and when a person is in a messenger and authorization is going through a messenger, they get their very short videos and tasks and get the tests and answer. You don't have to go anywhere. In terms of, here is a university and here is a certain website, some ELMS, some authorization, you name it. We're trying to meet people halfway, and the corporate universities appreciate it, because they say to improve the professionals, we have to bring him or her to our educational center. We're paying for the day. They do not work this day. They get paid, and we incurring big costs. But when we speak about the mobile education, micro knowledge, and education in messengers, well, you have your gaps. When having your tea break, you can quickly open your app, whatever, and to find your 15 or 20 minutes to go through your course, through your content, and the company is not paying for you to take a day off and to study in our educational building. So you're finding the gaps and you're filling in the gaps through these kind of educational courses. That's all I wanted to add. Maxim, thank you for a very informative comment. Actually, I would like to go back to one issue which was mentioned by Alexander, that all the auxiliary personnel, all the supporting staff could be replaced by robots or some algorithms. And Oleg Dukhovnitsky, who is the head of Sviazi, would like to give a comment. Thank you very much. I want to say so much, I do not even know where to begin, but I have to begin from the beginning, I guess, because I have to thank the leadership of the RANEPA. Like Dmitry said, every year the conference is becoming more and more interesting, deeper, rich in content, and we as a federal agency chose a formalized way. We've signed a contract with Russian Academy of National Economy and Public Administration. We're going to be more involved in this work. As for the subject matter of our discussion today, I never regretted for coming over here. And all the speakers have spoken before, beginning with Oleg and to Dmitry, Maxim and Alexander, have touched upon a very interesting topic for me and for my colleagues present here. And we have 4 universities, and geographically they are located in Moscow, St. Petersburg, Samara, and St. Petersburg. And the most western point is in Smolensk, and the one which is to the east is Ulan-Ude, eastern Siberia. We do not have that many students like in the academy, only 35,000, and 1,500 would be our teaching staff, but still we are proud with the level of education that we provide. Upon graduation, 85% of our students find employment, which is, I think, a very good indicator. Not necessarily in our industry, but since we teach not only the communications professionals, but also people who specialize in informational technologies, IT safety, and things like that. So I think it's very good that we can find employment for all of them. and these close ties between the industry and education. And like it was already mentioned today, we believe that this approach is on a very high level. We have very basic departments. It's not only the departments of the very high communication companies, but also the Western communication companies outside of Russia. And our students get the type of education which, when they finish their training, immediately can be put into practice. Still, regarding robots in education, somebody said that 400 people were replaced by just one robot or algorithm. Is that good or bad? I guess it's just a matter of time when digitization and IT technologies are permeating our world. But all of that used to be called cybernetics back in 1960s, and then different words and names. Now we call it IT, info, telecoms, and different terms emerge. Even the great guys who was called the pioneers back in Soviet Union. Once, I guess we all had been pioneers. That we have been pursuing this for several decades already. My point is, basically, all the presenters have mentioned about that today's conversation is about business education, but we should never forget about academic education as a baseline, that we have to promote it, we have to support it. I realize it's not exactly the topic of our conversation, but it was mentioned today that the average age of those who are getting this additional education, be it a business education, professional development, additional training, reprofiling, is 29-year-old and older. I mean, those people who come to us to get their additional preferences, to boost their qualifications, they come as full-fledged professionals. And I would like to draw attention of our audience. In everything we do, in field of education especially, we have to stick to the principles of the reasonable limits, not to lose the element of personal communication between the teacher and the student. Why? Because not every profession today, not every job can be received, obtained, and then developed through the modern systems of learning. For example, just to give you an example, something totally unrelated, because again, we're in communications, so we are in IT field. Let's talk about doctors. How can you train highly skilled and qualified doctor who would get their education by this kind of very up-to-date, very convenient way, like distant learning? I think it's premature to speak about this form of training. Going back to our academic training and saying that education on the Russian language is on a very high level, I would disagree that we have not hundreds but dozens of students who get their training by the old-fashioned way. First year they're studying the Russian language, and then they study their profession. I think that the Russian language has to be spread, has to be popularized, not only at the post-Soviet territory, but also in France, even though our colleague has spent many years in France and speaking fluent Russian still, which is super. And I think that this is approach which is still valid. We all love English language, and like I've spoken with some of my colleagues, our life is filled with American culture, but still we by no means should forget our language, and we have to impress it upon our colleagues and partners, and at all this, over the globe, we have to make the language popular. And basically, that's it. Once again, I'll say that much can be said, but I'll go back to what I've said in the middle of my very brief presentation. I would like to encourage all of us, speakers and those who carry philosophy of education, distant education, e-learning, electronic learning, let us use the principles of the reasonable limits. And I remember that I've taken some e-learning courses. It was in the beginning of the year 2000. It's quite a good way to learn, because at first we would meet our teachers, we would study our curricula, then go back to our towns and shops, and then we would reassemble again, and then we would demonstrate the level of knowledge that we have received. It's a hybrid approach, and I think that many of those who studied with me are high-level executives, and they still use this knowledge in real life. I think this principle of as low as reasonably practicable is good. And it's good that terminology is changing. It's not a cybernetics anymore, but the main idea is the same. Time flies, time speeds up. Definitely, distant education, e-learning, is one of the most up-to-date and most popular means and trends of education, but again, the basic education should not be neglected. Let us think that it's too early to lock up in your university or in your room and to skip your on-campus classes, because we are humans and we are sociable beings, and let it be always like that. It's what makes us different from other biological species. Thank you. I think Oleg has touched upon a very important topic, that basically the distant education is good, it's convenient for many reasons. It's even economically viable for attendees and for a university, or be it a corporate university, but still the human communication, human touch is of paramount importance. And I think the main limit here for an e-learning is this need of the live interpersonal communication. Maybe eventually you would come to university only to your gym, and everything else will be done on a remote basis. But I think in other aspects, I think the live communication is not necessary. There is a myth that you cannot take exams in a remote way because you have to control the good behavior, the honesty issues, the cheating issues, and stuff like that. But there's a number of methods which would enable you to take exams and to pass exams remotely. And this is the very topic I would like to address it to Ademir Baye, one of the founders of the company. And presentation on the screen, please. Good morning, dear colleagues. Thank you for the invitation. Can we please have our presentation on the screen? I would like to apologize for my presentation in English because I didn't know that I will have to speak in Russian, and I've prepared my presentation. So I'll be very, very brief points of what has been mentioned now about the trends, which can be seen in the field of education. And I would love to ask you, if you've ever been an entrepreneur, if you've managed a big corporation, let's assume that your employees or representatives of your workforce have turned to you, but they have a diploma from the online platform. Would you accept such a diploma from an online course if that person is promising for your company or for your field? If it were a second diploma, so you want a basic diploma, on-campus earned diploma, but if the whole training was online, would you accept the diploma? I think if he would pass the qualifications assessment, we would accept this person. Yeah. So you've double-checked the diploma. Okay, you've graduated, for example, from RANEPA via an online course, and now you're admitted. Now, what are we having today? This is the stat, not only for online training, but generally for education. In America today, I will try to formulate it in Russian, I'm sorry. That about 40% of those who graduated universities do not have these qualifications which have been declared when people were applying, which means that there's a big number of people, they come to work, they do not know any qualifications, they don't have any job skills which had been declared. And even when they do the testing, there is a confirmation, still no real life skills. So the question remains. This is why I've named my presentation, What's the Future of Assessment?
Just a couple of figures. The trend that we see today, all the sectors are going online. In the USA, for example, some 60% of universities consider online education a strategically important aspect of their operations. Some 70% of students that pay for education or take part in specialized educational programs. The level of graduation of such online courses is much higher than the average for classroom-based education. The same can be said about recruitment. We see that for a number of business education projects. If you take Amazon.com, for example, or Google, when hiring people today, they conduct such tests. Why is it so important, testing students or testing people? Well, in fact, testing is the most reliable way to make sure that there are proper skill sets. It is probably the only way to confirm that the declared level of education and training is true. If we want to confirm the training level of a graduate, we have to spend some time on observation. In the USA, for example, some 72% of online students admit having copycatted during tests. And there are different ways to copycat, actually. I'm not going to dwell upon the minor details of that. In my opinion, there are two main questions. First, how to make sure that the one undergoing tests, that his or her identity is true. If we take shell stats, for example, they offer pools of questions on math and other disciplines with no verifications. Anyone can log in order to pass tests. And I can actually hire a good mathematician to pass the exams for me. How can I confirm my identity? And there is technology for that. There are also technologies, new technologies for copycatting. I can use virtual GitHubs for that. One of the ways which is used today worldwide in order to avoid such problems is called proctoring, or remote proctoring. Originally, the word to proctor or supervise meant overseeing those passing exams. Remote proctoring has been used for online education purposes for some 15 years already. There is a system helping to understand what's going on with the student undergoing examination. Approximately 2 million exams were passed by students with the use of proctoring in 2016, almost one half in the corporate sector. Companies such as Google or Amazon.com when hiring new employees in order to make sure that they have proper skill sets. There are different ways, different approaches to such supervision. Normally, three groups of parameters are verified. Firstly, what's there on a student's computer display when the student is passing exams, which browsers are open, and so forth, which resources are used. The second group is designed for identification, designed to make sure that the one on screen is actually the student undergoing examination. And the last group is designed to complete integrity testing. And for every group, there are proper parameters. For instance, in the USA, there are two major proctoring systems, both being invasive systems, tracking everything that might be there on students' display during examination, which is about full-fledged control. Students are in no position to open their email, for example, or have access to any other resources. And there are also non-invasive systems, which only monitor and track students' activities during examination in order to help avoid problems. More generally, if we look at Russia being dynamically developing market, especially in the sphere, in the area of education, if you take inside higher education, the US-based resource, there are a number of countries with rapidly developing higher education area, including Russia, China, and India. It showed how to improve this process. For example, if in the USA the growth rate previously allowed putting in place systems validating results and verifying results, and such systems were introduced by institutions such as Massachusetts University, my university, where one half of education programs are online programs. Well, in other words, this trend is underway, and sooner or later it will be here. And it is absorbed by new education platforms, which are designed not only to improve the quality of education or the education content supported by training platforms. It's also about personal data security, examination integrity, and making sure that students do get true knowledge. To the best of my knowledge, there are not too many companies or platforms in Russia considering the introduction of proctoring. As far as I know, there is a major Panedo educational platform. There is Higher School of Economics. Some other institutions have been trying to introduce non-invasive proctoring as to a comprehensive strategy for the introduction of this concept, allowing replacing human oversight. There is no such program. There is a network of universities in Europe, for example, based on Amsterdam University, which is engaged in the development and research in the area of online examination and testing verifications. the universities which are part of it have to get adapted to make sure that it works. Education is switching from knowledge-based education to need-based education. People can become students not only in their 20s, but also in their 30s, understanding that, for example, I need this set of skills or this knowledge, which means that curricula will be changing quite frequently. My background is that of chemical engineer. However, today I'm an IT specialist. People have to change skill sets pretty frequently. And it's very difficult to confirm knowledge and skill sets and competences without testing. An individual can come with a set of skills or background of a completed project. However, this needs to be confirmed through testing. Oh, well, and that seems to be it. Thank you very much, Dennis. Yes, it does seem to me that proctoring is really important, and we should pay attention to it. Especially in discussing the part of educational process to be automated. This supervision component and relations between students and professors should be partnership relations underpinned by mutual development, joint development, which gives rise to a whole set of questions. And I'd like Alexei Filatov, board chairman of the board of BBCG and the founder of Retail Academy, which is pretty interesting project, to share with us their experience in dealing with such aspects as using big data in education and even the relations between the graduates, alumni, and higher learning institutions in this new digital environment. Thank you very much for inviting me to take part in this event. I'm new to it. And what I have seen so far is very interesting to me. Well, actually, BBCG is engaged in organizing for the various industries on a regular basis. We have been doing that for many years, and we've been doing that quite professionally. But I'm new to the educational industry. Well, although in the past couple of years we have had to do with this particular initiative. About my slides, I'm going to introduce my company, BBCG. Every year we organize conferences, and we're also engaged in researching this market. This initiative, I mean, our Retail Academy has been in place for a couple of years. Its founders are players of the retail market who are interested in putting such educational system in place. Higher learning institutions for the retail industry do not exist. Unlike in the oil and gas industry, for instance, take Gubkin University, for instance. You have posed pretty specific questions during this session. I'll touch upon some of them, including big data and how communications with alumni can be maintained as well. I'm going to start from the most important thing, namely, to my mind, it's worthwhile paying attention to adjacent areas. In our country, in this country, well, it is pretty quite chaotic system. Our global partner is the UK, one of the biggest partners of our conferences is in Forma, with more than 1,000 conferences per year. My role was big data management, putting in place communication systems, and Informa has invested several million of pounds in such a system. Their conference division has knowledge to be borrowed and relied upon by the higher education industry. Well, the conference industry is facing the same challenges as the higher learning industry. Which puts it in perspective in many ways. We use technologies such as webinars, for instance. It should be admitted that the conference business does not fully believe that everything will be TV-based, preferring and opting for live communication, live knowledge transfer, and emotion sharing. The world is switching to the digit, and I dare to identify 4 major trends which are shared by the education and conference organization businesses. Include marketing and personalization of information content. There are also new digital interaction formats. Which are designed to underpin communication between students and professors, business education. Such information exchange or collaboration takes place within the actual student groups. And my last 4th point or trend is mobility. And I think that we should address the 2 questions mentioned before in the context of these 4 bullets. But first, big data. The question which was actually articulated, the question when would big data start yielding benefits? If we look back at the experience of our conference business, well, there big data was used for many years for marketing purposes, for sales. Obviously, with quality big data on attendees, with proper business intelligence and analysis, one can not only come up with proper offering, which courses and training programs to offer, but also to customize educational content. Let's look, for example, at business retraining. By the way, the systems themselves are not that complex. I mentioned the several million pounds of investments by a key company. Sometimes experts, those engaged in big data, can analyze such data arrays in actual pivot tables without using any expensive IT solutions. What I mean is that the availability of big data tools is pretty high. Those tools are available to virtually everybody and anybody. On top of such marketing hype, which is about using big data for sales, the importance of big data for R&D should be considered. We shouldn't only wait for this to happen. We should examine specific use cases. As to the second topic, I'd like to offer a short comment. Most of the participants were a panel discussion, link digital communications with alumni, graduates, networks such as LinkedIn or Facebook. Based on our own experience, for 5 years, BBCG, in order to communicate with our graduates, has been using a mobile app, of course, with different functionality and capabilities. But this communication on social media is gradually becoming or transforming into kind of high-street communication. The ability to use a mobile app creates this club environment or atmosphere. Having this application on my smartphone makes me part of an elite group, an alumni group. Should there be time, I could demonstrate how this application works. It was developed by a group of talented people from Novosibirsk, and as you know Novosibirsk is a city which belongs to IT experts. If you find time, approach me, I'll show you how it works. In a couple of years, such mobile apps will become the most user-friendly and convenient tool to underpin such alumni-to-professor communication. Thank you very much for your very interesting presentation and for being brief as well. Yes, I know it is one of the most important qualities for every conference participant. Unfortunately, we are running out of our time already, but there's still a couple of questions left. And I'd like our distinguished participants to comment on them. For example, Maxim Girin could share with us why the question when big data will be used in education. Well, it's not an easy question, Max. What do you think about that? Well, in fact, big data are only good when they're really big. If it's just data, regular BI systems are enough. The main question is how to collect big data. This year, together with the university, we create the rating systems for online courses, which system is similar to Booking.com. When a system allows you to select data which is most suitable for you based on a set of parameters. If such data are only provided by students and universities, the trustworthiness of those data will not be sufficient. Therefore, we decided to develop a technology like Yandex Counter, with a piece of code to be built into online courses to collect data on what's going on in online education in order to get complete stats on online courses, headcounts, training results, and so forth, which stats would be collected automatically as far as the rating is concerned. It's not only about rating, it's also about helping students opt for the most suitable training courses and programs, as well as for actual learning institutions themselves, for them to understand better their role and place in the education industry. In the end of 2016, we worked on the technology pretty thoroughly, and we expect it to be introduced in 2017. Let's wait for the proper data to come, to be analyzed. The tradition to collect learning analytics does not exist in Russia the way it exists in the West. Once it is in place, the quality of the data we collect will become much higher. I'd also like Vladimir Solovyov to comment on that. Unfortunately, Vladimir came in delay. Colleagues, I apologize for having delayed to attend this event, but I am really glad to see all of you. Of course, colleagues, speaking about big data is not easy today, especially in the area of education. Instead, we should discuss analytics, which can also be instrumental in their use cases in Russia and for Russia, and specific case studies showing how such BI can help developing proper services for the education industry, or forecast churn or fraud rate. Well, personally, I believe that the biggest infringement, the biggest impediment is the attempt to map new technologies to obsolete business models and education models. We have to deal with an electronic workshop system, seminar system, which must not be classroom-based, but it is still some portion of theory or discussion with very little hands-on work, hands-on learning, on-site learning, and I believe that it's worthwhile using IT tools in a more proper way, both in classes and in student homes. There are technologies for that in our finance university. This approach has been used for a couple of years already. Currently, we are collecting all those data which we consider valuable. As to qualitative breakthrough in area of data processing, it still does not exist. I'm speaking about qualitative improvements in churn forecasting, fraud forecasting. We may only speak about minor improvements rather than major breakthroughs. To achieve such a breakthrough, we need numerous improvements and diverse ones. We need to understand our utmost goals and objectives better. What we want to achieve with those big data, which is not the case so far. Vladimir, thank you very much. Colleagues, we have reached the end of our session and run out of the time allocated to us. In the course of our discussion, we tried to discuss the entire value chain starting from working with new students and all the way down to graduation. Of course, the goal that we have been pursuing is pretty ambitious, but thanks to our great speakers, we have managed to discuss the entire range of questions in its diversity. And in the end, I would like our experts to name the main challenges of today's education. One for each. While listening to you, I thought that we should meet 5 years later in order to discuss the outcome, because at this point I don't have any insights worth discussing today. I haven't heard anything new actually. This is the impression that I have of this discussion. Unfortunately, we have not mentioned marketing or actual student acquisition, which seems to be one of the biggest challenges from the perspective of education virtualization. Now, we have heard words. Oh, you mentioned that. You mentioned terrible things such as firing people. Well, I was following your talk and putting your points down. I have not found any proper insight there, but that's my personal opinion. Oh, your academy does not allow you. Oh, there was just one scary table. Alexander, you mentioned attraction channels and a channel such as word of mouth with only 5%, while in the rest of the world its share is between 60 and 70%. If the efficiency rate of our business education is only this high, well, we're in trouble. I apologize for that. I followed you quite attentively. As far as the MOC is concerned, I'm getting back to Alexander's talk again. I have an impression that this channel's blind alley, only helping to attract those who have knowledge, already understand the situation. You mentioned the 15 million trainees of Coursera, but it's not true. Of those who reached the end, some 95 to 98% are people with previous training experience.
So I think it would not be justified to speak that we can attract the audience. I'm sorry for being so forceful, intentful. I have a proposal to the organizing committee of the Gaidar Forum. Let's meet in 5 years exactly and discuss our successes as relates to the digital education, also about business education, and we as a national project and the national digital platform, we will attempt to understand what online courses are all about, because as you may have known, we do not have a normative definition for this phrase. I think in 5 years we'll be able to understand it, to understand what's efficiency rate and how do we evaluate efficiency of online courses, what online courses are all about, and then we'll reassemble again and share our experiences and our opinions. 1 year later it's too soon. We can discuss certain aspects. This was the whole idea, to look at the different things and to have a large scope discussion. Colleagues, is anybody else is willing to speak up? If I may, very, very briefly. Dmitry just stole what I wanted to say. And I'm a government official, you know, and this is what I have to do as relates to normative regulation. In the law on regulation, in the law on education, we have a statement that education is also upbringing. and how can you do the upbringing and forming the personality online? That's a big question for me. I'm not sure about 5 years, but maybe in 2 years we'll be able to do something, because the field of education is making big strides in this field, and I think new normative acts and new regulations by federal agencies where it has to be regulated. I'm not necessarily speaking about a federal law, but about some bylaws. It's necessary because life goes on, and that very thing that we are discussing now, we need to be the pilots of that thing, because sometimes we have certain practical aspect and then a theory which regulates these practical situations. So a piece of legislation should be reflecting the reality of today. Thank you very much, colleagues. And Alexander? Since it was already mentioned, I will say it again. Colleagues, two main pivotal issues for me are the following. I've done some analytical studies that through the robotization in Asian countries, about 2 billion people are being let go. And I have two questions. How soon our Russian educational system will be able to reconstruct itself so that these people would be motivated to get their education here, not there? Can we change our curriculums to prepare the staffing platforms in 2, 3, 5 years? And secondly, what instruments it will take so that we could take these 2 billion people and make them a part of our education, unless we use the digital solutions and technologies we have at our disposal, and which, for some reason, we do not want to recognize and to implement. I'm very sorry, but to speak about the cybernetics of 1980s and still not being able to implement on a large scale good project in Russia. For example, the National Platform of Open Education, it has been inexistent for 2 years. We have a lot of experience. We've been involved in e-learning for over 20 years in different ways. I think it's an insight. It's the indication of that inertia we have in our higher schools of learning. Well, if we're late, we will not be popular, demanded in 5 years. So will that be still relevant to speak about online courses? Maybe technologies will be totally different. Thank you. I think we have to continue our debates. We are lacking for 2 more hours. It has become a good tradition when the most interesting things are spoken at the very end, because first people speak, deliver their presentations, and then we get a very lively discussion. One command, if I may, to answer your question, what I consider to be the main challenge. And I think somebody has already said about it. It's a personalization of educational content. I think this is really the hardest thing to implement in real life. But still, it's evident, and it's a part of our agenda. And I also have a request, if it is possible at all. Can I ask our audience to vote? Do they believe in the future do you believe, or maybe you do not believe, in Uber University? Who of you believes in the future of the whole concept of an Uber University? Please lift up your hand. But the question is, in 5 years, in 10 years? Well, let's specify, let's say in 10 years. Do you believe that Uber in Russia or in the world? Somebody is saying. With this speed of development in Russia, no. A lady is saying, well, colleagues, I guess nobody is voting. Nobody wants to lift up their hands. It is not a peer-to-peer, but it could be a community of learners. Well, the gentleman is saying it's all about details. And my children are having these like games. They're going to YouTube. They quickly learn how to do stuff, and then they do stuff. And it's about a totally different level. It's about professionals. But when we speak about exclusive deals, it's a different thing. But well, whenever you take an Uber car, you're getting professional service. You have simply found this service via an Uber platform. Somebody say I'm not a professional driver either. I think it's a question only to those who are platform owners, because in Get Taxi, they have quite advanced system, although the business model is the same. I'm sorry for overstepping my power. Colleagues, any other comments, if we have? I guess I will agree in terms of the constant personalization. I believe that that online education is now on the side of supply, not on the side of demand. It's like teaching, learning. We provide it, we're not learning. But how can we understand what's the people's perception of information? It's on one hand is personification of learning, but secondly, it will give us a broader understanding, because maybe it's not about personification, but about some set of tools which could be delivered or given differently to students. This is what's going on today with gamification and with some other experiments. And I guess it's about the way people see, the way people perceive this type of content. It's a challenge number one. Challenge number two is the personal data safety issue. Well, in education, I think it's a very important component. For example, some people buy certificates of some schools, but when you do it online, it's very easy if you know how to do it. But so on one hand, it's a fraud, but a second issue is protecting personal data online. These are the challenges as I can foresee them for the future. And about the cheating and copying, we know what's going on even in on-campus training situation. Microphone, please. I guess our colleague has changed their mind. Oleg, Maxim, any comments from you? I would love to give a statement about the Uber University. So that Uber University will be functioning when the big data will be processed on a massive level. It will be related to the massification of computer calculations. But in Uber University is also a dangerous undertaking, because not always it will be conducive to the state sovereignty development, because for example, now some businesses in Russia are run by international platforms, and if this university will be shaping minds, and the platform of that will be located outside of Russia, it's the question about sovereignty of the Russian state. This is a challenge that I am throwing to my public for discussion. And as for other challenges, I can say that as a person who has left the country and came from the other country now, from France, you know, going beyond the political situation, which is very strong, which much is being discussed now in my countrymen are speaking about sanctions between our countries, and I believe that education, especially the remote and distance education, is a factor of building bridges between our countries and electronic platforms and programs. I've been introduced to RANEPA University in Paris on November 15th, when the Russian-French university was introduced, which was working on the basis of the RANEPA. And again, the digital technologies enable us to build connections and ties between individuals who are peaceful per se. And thus we're making our countries closer to one another. But in this political context, there are certain tensions, as we may know. Digital technologies have to be an organic part of education. They have to be a part of the concept of the so-called academic diplomacy. We know there is a scientific and cultural diplomacy, economic diplomacy, when there are some difficult relations between countries. It's about science, it's about archaeology, as it is a case between Kazakhstan and our country. I believe that digital technologies likewise between our countries, and when it comes to international politics, they have to become the bridge of peace and about drawing us closer and establishing peace via education. You know, the brain drain. Somebody asked about the brain drain. That's the least of our concerns because it's more important to attract professionals into the country. And as it was spoken by Igor Barsis, the staffer of RANEPA in Paris, he said, you know, it's the best to involve to attract a student into the university, because he or she will always be helping to that university, they will always be helping to that time in their lives when they were young, because we look back to when we were young and we're trying to keep our loyalty to our alma mater, to the university that we've graduated from. Here's my vision about the challenges. While before the monasteries have been, cloisters have been the center of education, now, thank God, schools do something different rather than trying to be self-sustainable. And I want to say that we have to be more open as schools and universities. We have to be able to make ourselves self-sustainable. And the lines are blurred between schools and universities. Walls are crashing down. You do not know, you don't see the border between one field and the different field, and there is a mixing going on of different academic disciplines. And thus, the challenge we're facing today is we have to understand what kind of knowledge we're offering, what will be the system of training. I doubt that a student will be learning only from you, from your place. They'll be getting their knowledge from a number of sources simultaneously. And this is true. Thank you. Thank you. Any other comments, Vladimir? Colleagues, I believe that the main challenge and what has happened in the year 2016 is that the employer's presence on the educational market is now on a totally different level, and it's a global trend. And speaking of companies like Microsoft and Uber and other high techs, they have their own educational programs, and both it's closed programs and open courses. They're largely manage getting educational goals better than universities, because there'll not be a big university of Microsoft and Google. There'll be some convergence when you don't have to, you know, mine for chalk, as was mentioned, on your own territory, or try to do things which are not part of your goals, without getting involved too much in business instead of pursuing your academic goals. I think it's a high time to open a network program with employers on a large scale. Otherwise, they'll open them without our participation. Thank you, Vladimir. Colleagues, thank you very much. We can see that we still have more questions than answers, so we have something to discuss in the years to come. I would like to finish up on a very old-fashioned note. Despite all digital development and modernization, digitalization of the field of education, we want the education to provide not only skills, but also good, eternal, and solid knowledge, because we want to maintain our human touch and connections. We want to shape people, to form people, not only to develop technology. Thank you to the speakers panel, to all the attendants. All the best.